Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode 35 of Be With Me in the book of 2 Corinthians. We're not going to start in the Bible today. We're going to start with dogs today. Story, you may be familiar with a guy named Cesar Millan. He does a TV show called The Dog Whisperer. And I want to tell you a story about something that I saw on the show. So picture this. There's a dog in a cage. The cage is like 10 by 10 by 10 feet. And the dog is bonkers. The dog is violent and barking and baring teeth. And I forget the backstory on the dog, whether it was trained to be an attack dog or whether it was abused in some way. But the end result was this was a dog that had lost his way. And if you would have walked in that cage, that dog would have ripped you to shreds. So they present Cesar Millan, who is the dog whisperer, with the problem of what can you do about this dog? We can't even not only go in the cage, can't even go near the cage. So what he does is he doesn't go in the cage, he doesn't go near the cage. So he sits and goes about 10 feet away, and patiently, he does this over a long period of time. He sits down and he makes himself as small as possible, and he even turned his back to the cage. And then the dog would go crazy and was biting the chain links and was trying to attack him, even though he was 10 feet away. And I forget how long this went on. I think hours, or I forget exactly. But then he moved 1 inch closer, still with his back turned to the cage. And then over time, he just moved 1 inch closer to the cage, 1 inch closer to the cage, 1 inch closer to the cage. Then he got up to the cage, and by this time the dog is quiet now. In fact, he didn't even move 1 inch till the dog was quiet. And then he unlatches the cage, stays there longer. Then he opens the cage, stays there, and then he moves his body into the cage, and he kind of like sits in the corner of the dog's cage and lets the dog get used to him. And then finally, I forget, like makes some contact, makes a touch with the dog, and then in a sense exerts his power. So Cesar Millan is the most powerful dog person in the world, smartest, wisest. And then eventually the dog would listen to him, and then he trains this dog and saves the dog. Similarly, today we're going to find out Paul turns himself into the dog whisperer. Why? Because Christ did the same way. Listen here, it's in 2 Corinthians chapter 10. I myself, Paul, entreat you by the meekness and gentleness of Christ, by the meekness and gentleness of Cesar Millan. I, who am humble when face to face with you, but bold to you when I am away. I beg you that when I am present, I may not have to show boldness with such confidence as I count on showing against some who suspect us of walking according to the flesh. For though we walk in the flesh, we are not waging war according to the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh, but have divine power to destroy strongholds. We destroy arguments and every lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of God, and take every thought captive to Christ, being ready to punish every disobedience when your obedience is complete. So here, I want to talk about this posture of humility while having this position of authority. And Paul says right off the bat, he says, I, Paul, myself, entreat you by the meekness and gentleness of Christ. So recommend to you this book. Dane Ortland wrote it, called Gentle and Lowly. And it's a whole book based on one verse, which is Matthew 11:29, which Jesus says in 85 chapters of New Testament gospel, he says only one verse talks about his heart, and he says, I am gentle and lowly. Gentleness meaning meek, not harsh, not trigger happy, not easily exasperated, patient, lowly, humble, accessible, humility of bearing, open, welcoming, understanding. Similarly, don't misunderstand this posture of meekness and humbleness in Christ to be one of two things. It's not powerlessness. It's Christ and Paul and Cesar Millan are all given like ultimate power, ultimate authority. These people have weapons and power and abilities to break down strongholds, and they have boldness, and they have some destructive power and knowledge, and they're able to take captives, and they're ready to punish, but they're choosing a different way. They're choosing the way of whispering. And it doesn't mean that they're clueless. It's not that Jesus and Paul and Cesar Millan, it's not that they don't understand what is at risk and who specifically is at risk. And it's because of this understanding of the risks that Paul is like Christ and Cesar Millan is like Christ. That is, they understand that I am at war for you, and they understand that I am at war and what kind of a war is that? It's a spiritual war, and it's costly, and it's dangerous, and it may be difficult, and it may have to break down strongholds. Okay, so I want to go back to Cesar Millan. He has this wild and crazy dog, and the only language that this dog could understand was whispering. Physically and posture of whispering and quietness. And it is only sometimes that the whispers that those who have lost their way will listen to. So the story I told you was a dog who lost his way, and it could only listen to the language of whispering. Similarly, that for those of us who have lost our way and are fighting and biting, baring our teeth and fighting against God, often it is only in the whispers that we will best listen to. So this dog couldn't listen to powers and command and punishment and beatings or whatever, but the dog could listen to whispers and positional whispers as Cesar Millan sat down, turned his back, and moved closer in a gentle way. So what Paul is saying here, he says, I have ultimate power, and I know that there's a war at stake, and I know that I have been given all this authority and positional authority, and what I'm going to choose to do is I'm going to choose to whisper. And I'm asking you, I'm begging you, I'm entreating you. Those are words he uses. He says, please listen. I am gentle and lowly like Christ. I am whispering so that you will listen. I am entreating you. I'm begging you. I'm urging you to look. I'm reminding you of stuff that you already know before it's too late. I'm whispering because it's the only language that you're going to listen to. Thanks for listening to The Whisper.